going to get started.
All right, let me.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience.
Yeah.
We're live, yes.
And we are live.
YouTube,
Yes.
Facebook is live.
It's the town's YouTube channel and Facebook. Or, correct?
All right, we're going to do some welcome remarks. Is that okay? Are you guys okay to do welcome remarks, or should I just do them? I'll just say thank you, everybody, for coming. We're very happy to be here. It's our last LPC meeting, so we find it very exciting. This has been a great group to work with, so hopefully everything goes well today. LPC Code of Conduct. Mayor, are you able to read that from where you are?
Is that a shot at my age or my glasses?
I
I can see it just fine. In fact, I'll take the
I'm
glasses
just
off
telling
just
you
to
that
show you up.
if I was sitting there, I would not be able to see it, so you do you.
All good. LPC Code of Conduct. Each local planning committee member is reminded of their obligations to disclose potential conflicts of interest with respect to projects that may be discussed at today's meeting. If you have a potential conflict of interest regarding a project you believe will be discussed during the meeting, please disclose it now and recuse yourself from any discussion or vote on said project. For example, you may state that you or a family member have a financial interest in the project, or you are on the board of the organization proposing the project. Do any other LPC members need to make a disclosure right now to the committee? Seeing none and expecting none, thank you. Please inform the LPC co-chairs during the meeting if you need to disclose a conflict that arises unexpectedly, and then recuse yourself from discussion on voting on that particular project.
Anthony? Yeah.
I have to disclose that I may have a conflict of interest with the small business fund. I spoke to them earlier in the week, and they said I just can recuse myself from
Yep,
whatever.
it's all good. So all it means is that when we're discussing that project, you won't be able to weigh in. You can stay where you are and you'll still hear everything. But we'll just ask that you not weigh in on that particular project, but everything else is fair game. And then at the end, when we're voting, it's really voting on the full slate of projects, so you will still be able to vote.
Okay, thank you.
And then, just for everybody's awareness, we have a couple of LPC members who are not here tonight. They will be given the ballot afterwards, and then electronically, by email, so everybody who's voting. All right, agenda. So today we have we're just really going through the projects and discussing any project updates. And then we'll be going over project evaluation, of course, and then our final slate of projects ballot. Pretty short agenda today. Here's our timeline. Not much has changed, except we are all the way at the end now. We're in October, yay. And you can see we've done a lot of work. You guys have done a lot of work. After this meeting, that's when Christy and I go back and kind of pull up in our offices and write the strategic investment plan. There will be no surprises in there. Everything that you see tonight is what will end up being in there. Everything that you've been seeing is what will be in there. And then that plan gets submitted to the state. It'll take us about a month, good solid month for us to draft that. And then the report will go to the state probably in December. All right, public engagement update. So on October 8th, we went to the Cornwall Fall Festival. Christy and Susan went. Got a lot of people. We had, as you can see, we had some project boards. And what we did is we had 2 project boards that had all the projects on them. And then it's very similar to what we did at the public meeting that was held here just a week or 2 ago. And we had people kind of say whether they thought the projects were the individual projects, if they were, in terms of transformation, how transformative they are, low, medium, or high. And we got a really great response. Like the boards, we had so many stickers on the boards, we could barely read it at the end. And most of them high transformation. So I think, and you'll see in the upcoming slides, but the good news is that public support for, I think, all the projects is there, which is great.
So you will be showing us individual data?
Yep. Yep. And then this is from October 12th. We had our public workshop number 2 we had here. We had about 50 members of the public came. We had 16 community members join the live stream. We had similar live stream to what we did tonight. As of October 20th, the live stream had 439 views. That might be the mayor, but we're not sure.
Well, it's fully 1/6 of the village.
And we also had an online survey. The online survey was open from the public workshop until last Thursday, until the 19th. So it was open for about a week. And overall, we got 89 online submissions. And then we also had people take the survey here as well, although most people, what they did is they kind of took the paper, walked around, wrote notes, and then went home to take the survey, which is fine by us. Overall, we had about 100, I think 101 or 102 responses, which is great. Any questions, comments about the public engagement? All right, project evaluation. So this is our process. You might remember, you've seen this slide for the past few meetings. LPC meeting number 2 is when you all decided the evaluation criteria to be used. Meeting number 3, we presented the projects for the first time that we had received through the open call for projects, and we discussed eligibility, mostly focusing on project eligibility. At the last LPC meeting, projects were presented by the project sponsors, and then you all did the project evaluation criteria of, what did we do last time? Was it readiness and, oh, I can tell you on this slide. So this is what we did. So we've already looked at state, local, and regional goals, project readiness, catalytic effect, co-benefits. So today we'll be looking at cost effectiveness and public support. We are not going to be doing, like pulling out your phones and doing that again. It's more going to be discussion-based today. What do we mean by this? So public support, I think, is pretty obvious. What we did is, at the public meeting, we had, and on the online survey as well, they were designed to be the same. We asked people to weigh in on their favorite aspects of each project and aspects of the project that they thought maybe could be improved, or suggestions for improving these projects. And then we also asked them to evaluate for each project, similar to what we did at the Fall Festival, how transformative they are. And we used a scale of 1 to 5. And so we'll go through those results one by one. And then cost effectiveness. Our meaning of cost effectiveness is there an adequate budget information is provided and reflects a prudent expenditure of New York Forward funds, demonstrated need for New York Forward funds, and ability to leverage private or non-state investment. Any questions on that so far? Here's our project map. As you may remember, once again, we have projects that span the entire New York Forward boundary area, which is nice to see. And then project updates. This is just I don't expect you to read all this right now. We'll go over these individually, but this is just a high level of kind of where we started and where we are now at the end. So we started with a total cost of $19.9 million, New York Forward request of $6.8 million, and then as of today, and what the final number is, the total project cost may change a little bit, but the New York Forward request will not change after tonight. We are at $19.6 million, and then our New York Forward request is $6.9 million. And that's for each of the 10 projects. The total cost, you will see as we go through these projects, some projects have gone way up in cost, but that's expected, that always happens. Some projects went down in cost because we decided to take out the phased approach. So there are some projects that are phased. This is more reflecting the total cost of the projects of whatever phase they're requesting New York Forward funding from. So that's why that number is different and why it went down. And just a reminder that we are currently at $6.9 million, which is exactly where you want to be. So the requirements for New York Forward is that we submit to the state slate of projects that's between $6 and $8 million. So you guys are in a very lucky position where there's no need to, scramble to add or subtract any projects. So. All right. The these are in no particular order. Our first project up is renovate the historic Storm King Theater at 2 Idlewild Avenue into a multi-use theater space. Improve the historic Storm King Theater building by converting interior spaces into a first-floor black box theater to serve as a public space and a second-floor lounge and dinner theater that would be integrated into the existing restaurant, bringing diverse entertainment programming while staying true to the building's historical use. The project sponsor is Storm King Associates, and we don't have any project updates since we last saw you. I do want to say we have since heard from the project sponsor, and we want to just make some clarifications about the project. So there's two components to it, as I know we've talked about. There's the first floor, which is the black box theater concept, which is more of a public serving, and then there's the more private serving theater that's associated with the restaurant. And the public serving one is really meant to be a community space, so it will be operated by a nonprofit organization rather than a private entity. And the idea is that then if somebody wants to rent out the space at a lower cost than they could otherwise, they can maybe do that and for certain classes or theater performances or film screening, things like that. Did I get that right?
Yes, but it's not necessarily renting stage. We want
Okay.
to make sure that it's free for community use.
Okay.
So Chamber of Commerce, free. Cornwall Hudson Special Events, when we do our movies, free. Any basically community organization, any nonprofit organization that wants to host a public event for the benefit of the public, it's free.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
So I'm glad you're here. So that's not really an update, but just a clarification on the space. These are, this is what a rendering of what the inside of that kind of the community space would look like. So it's really just a black box that can be conformed into theater space, movie space, whatever space. Very, very flexible. And then the drawing on the left shows just kind of the layout. You can see the lounge room and the restaurant in the upper room. The current uses in the building would stay the same. The uses that are there will stay, nobody's leaving. For public support, favorite project aspects that we heard were revitalization of historic theater, space for community activities and arts, and the barn restaurant. Suggested improvements were addressed increased parking need, ensure dinner theater is affordable, and allow space to be rented for events. So that's the feedback that we heard. In terms of how transformative the project is, so we have two different graphs. Sorry, it's a little confusing. For the fall festival, we kept it really simple on the scale of 1 to 3. And then for the public workshop, we put it on a scale of 1 through 5. And as you can see, in terms of 4 and 5 being the most transformative, so I think this project certainly, the public certainly thinks that this project would be transformative.
That's interesting how they lined up, for 1 and 2 on the one side, and then 3, and then 4 and 5, they kind of lined up similarly.
Yeah.
Jill or Christina, whoever, are we going to be able to ask a few questions about each of these? I don't want to just do it now if there's a section where we ask.
Yeah, but I think we can probably, why don't we take a couple minutes to then, I think that would probably be easier. Maybe we'll go through the budget and then you'll see all the
Perfect.
slides for each project, and then honestly, we hadn't thought that part through, so I'm
That's
glad
okay.
you mentioned that.
Yeah, no worries.
And then here's the budget breakdown for the Storm King Theater project. So we have interior renovation, $435,000, electrical and HVAC, $102,000, accessibility improvements, $45,000, stage construction and lighting, $191,000, and then miscellaneous, $68,000. Overall, the total requested is $773,000. The total project cost is $841,000, and then from the project sponsor will be contributing $68,000. The budget was prepared by Storm King Associates, and the budget does include a 10% contingency. Now I think I'll open it up. Yeah.
Oh, what was the other question?
Oh, go ahead.
I have a question, two questions about the budget. So at 92% requested as total project cost, how does that stack up to the others since it's the first one we're seeing?
It's a little bit all over the place because some are requesting 100% and some projects are requesting, I think there was one that's like 11%. So it's really, there's a pretty wide range.
Okay.
Yeah, and we typically see a wide range in New York Forward and DRI funding as well. There's gonna be, I think it all depends. If it's a huge project, usually they're, like the huge development projects, that's when we see this, New York Forward's really dropping the bucket. But when it's a smaller project, where especially if it's like a nonprofit or a more public serving use, then that's when you see that percentage go way up.
And you had, once upon a time, I thought you said there would be some budget review by a third party? Where are we in that?
So we had all of the public projects, we have reviewed by a company called Trophy Point. They do construction estimating. We did not have it done for the private projects because we felt that given who the project sponsors were, that they had sufficient experience, that we weren't nervous that the budgets were coming in and we couldn't trust them.
Okay.
Jill, I want to just offer one just clarification on this. So the $68,000 is work that has already been completed by the project sponsors on this. And then I believe, and Elizabeth, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's going to be an additional $82,000 that the project sponsor is going to be committing to do some of the architecture and engineering, some of the storage buildings, some other repairs, some blacktop work, et cetera. And then that is going to be that would be the somewhat in-kind donation. That would not necessarily be the market value of what those types of things are doing because the project sponsor is doing it themselves. So it is not necessarily, if it were the market value price, some of those items that the project sponsor is submitting would likely be higher.
Mine is just a logistical question. I feel like it might have been answered before, but I want to refresh my memory. The black box seating, do you know the capacity in there? Did we find out do you know that also?
It will be 100 plus, depending on how the arrangement is.
Okay.
So because it's a black box theater, there's no permanent seats, right? So we could have something without seats. You can have standing, you can have chairs. We could have movies in there and say bring your sleeping bags.
Like, do you know the max capacity, I guess is what
The max capacity is estimated right now at 100, but that's not a formalization where we've had like the fire, I don't know what
Fire inspector.
like do.
Okay.
It might end up
But around
100
100 right now, you got it.
Yes.
And then the
The smaller one's 50, because the room is exactly half the size of the big one.
great. And then the accessibility improvements that you have there, ADA, yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
All
Okay.
ADA compliant.
Great.
Any other questions? All right, next we have convert the former, oh my gosh, I'm gonna butcher this word again, I'm sorry, everybody. Shadane Homestead at 1 Angola Road into the Veterans Repertory Theater. Convert the Shadane Homestead at Angola Road into a home for Veterans Repertory Theater. Phase 1 of the project is underway and is the purchase and rezoning of the site. New York funds would support Phase 2 with the 30-seat theater, box office, lobby lounge area, parking lot, space for playwriting classes, and administrative offices. The future Phase 3 includes expanding the theater to 50 seats by adding a balcony and box seats, a backstage area, dressing rooms, and addition of outdoor stage and second-story porch. The project sponsor is VetRep, and we don't have any project updates from when we last saw you. So we have, these are the existing conditions. We've got both the exterior and the interior, and then these are the proposed conditions. The exterior would be includes all 3 phases. In terms of public support for favorite project aspects, we heard it enhances the community and cultural offerings, supports veterans, and attracts visitors. For suggested improvements, be to address demand for parking, ensure space is inclusive for all community members, and increase the size of the theater. How transformative? I think this one also is kind of eerily in line.
It lines up, yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does, and I'd say this one also feels like this has gotten good public support. So, I'll just stop here for a second on these slides and you guys can like see.
Jill, I'm curious about one thing.
Yep.
Well, many things, but I'll ask one. I don't know what the other processes have looked like elsewhere in the state, but, I mean, well, so far, and I hope this continues, the public support for each of the projects looks like it's been pretty strong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does anything ever change if that's not true? Like, to what degree could either the project coordinators or the LPC, like, make some really serious changes if, like,
They can.
we see a mandate from the public that says this is awful?
They can.
Okay.
So that example, that actually happened last year. The LPC saw that there was very low public support for one of the projects. And I think there was a low simmering, like not very, the LPC was not particularly supportive, but I think that would pushed it over the edge. And so at the last meeting, we decided to chop that project.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. So that means this input does have some meaning.
It does.
Again,
it
I'm
does.
sure we all hope that it's gonna stay strong, but
Yeah,
it's nice to think that we're listening to what people are saying.
yeah. Look, a good sneak preview is that there's no projects
Okay,
on
good.
there, so we're good. We're good. And we do have one that has lower public support, but yes, nobody will be surprised when we get to that, so.
Jill?
Yeah,
I'd also like to point out, for anyone who doesn't know, that the Fall Festival was attended by many different people from all across the region in our area, where our public workshop is more very local, and they do line up pretty closely. So even the visitors who voted the same way as the people who came here, and the visitors would like to see these improvements as well.
yeah, that is true, although I think we didn't have as many out-of-town people, mostly because Susan accosted people and said, do you live here? And they said yes, and she told them to come in.
Accosted.
If they didn't,
That's a
we lost
strong
it.
word. That is a legal word.
Have you met her?
I let her do that. I just sat in the back.
And if they were out of town, it was like, good luck to you, have fun at the Fall Festival. So-
Oh, I welcomed all opinions, but maybe I pushed a little harder with the critical.
I guess I have one question
Yeah.
about, and maybe Star, maybe you can answer this question. So part of what is being proposed is the outdoor stage, and in theory, if we were to recommend this, that would be one of the things that's being funded. Has that outdoor stage gotten an okay from the planning board? Has that all been approved, or is that just sort of like something you'd like to do?
Based on going forward, but that's phase 3.
That's phase 3, so that's
Yeah.
down the road.
That's down the road.
Okay.
That's down the road.
So there's a chance that if you didn't get approval for that, you would just nix that from the project and do the other expansions that you still want to do in phase 3.
Chris will, and the architect can do anything. We can accommodate.
In terms of the proposed budget breakdown, we had phase 1, which already occurred, was $596,000. For phase 2, we have architectural engineering costs of $70,000, building retrofit $75,000, kind of sprinkler, electrical, HVAC $230,000, theater, box office and lobby $45,000, utilities $60,000, $160,000 for site work. And then phase 3, which we're not really including in our total project cost, is $2.3 million. And that would have come at a later stage. As you can see, most of this would be funded by New York Forward, but we do have private equity of $75,000 would also be provided. So the percent requested of total project cost, this just again for phase 2, is 89%. So total funding request of $625,000, total project cost of $700,000. And this was, the budget was prepared by VETREP and included a contingency of 10%. And again, this was one of the non-public projects that we, in talking with the project sponsor and seeing how they came up with their budget, we did not verify, but we didn't feel like we needed to. Do we have any questions or comments about this one?
I know in the municipal projects, we were looking at 15% contingency on, generally speaking, on the private projects, 10% is okay with you?
Yeah,
Okay.
we cleared that with the state, and so I think
Perfect.
some of the budgets came in and did not have a contingency, but we met with them and said, we need to have something in there, and 10% was what was suggested by the state.
Okay.
Did you find parking concerns were like a standard theme throughout all the private projects? 'Cause it looks like two so far.
And I think the public ones? Yeah.
Oh, the public ones do have
Oh,
parking?
yeah. It was a very popular
Well, and
comment.
to piggyback on that, this was a question I did have. With the suggestions, little part you put, I mean, what are we supposed to be reflecting on that? Or are the project manager supposed to reflect, or is that just something for us to see? Or, I don't know why we're supposed to apply that knowledge to.
I think it's, well, certainly for the public projects, although the project sponsors are largely here. So this is a way for them to get, the project sponsors were at the public meeting, so they were able to hear feedback as well. So theoretically, they should be listening to that feedback, and then they can decide to, if there's something they want to alter about their projects. And that would include, of course, the municipalities were also there and also heard feedback.
But none of that contingent on, oops, sorry. But none of that contingent on us making a decision, obviously. Okay.
And Jill, I may have missed it, but can you explain like why those were the comments? Like, was that just like a random selection of comments or?
Oh, no, it wasn't. What we did is we took all the comments that we had about each project, and so everybody, all 100 people who wrote things they liked and things they didn't like, and we synthesized them. So we just kind of condensed them into more like broad themes, and then we just picked the top 3 that got the most comments.
And the summary from the public workshop that dives deeper into all the comments is going to be posted onto the Cornwall New York Forward website. So you'll be able to go there too and review more of the comments that were received. And that goes for, it's going to be public, so everyone can go to it.
Okay, good.
Next up, construct a boutique hotel at 317 and 315 Main Street. Construct a 4-story, 52-room upscale boutique hotel with a full-service restaurant and bar on Main Street. Improvements also include the creation of parking spaces that would be leased to the town for public use and stormwater drainage improvements. Project sponsor is Two Boys, One Girl Holdings, LLC. This project, so projects that are new construction or substantial renovations of buildings, depending on their size. This was the only project out of all 10 projects that meets the requirements for decarbonization. So projects that get funding from New York Forward or apply for funding from New York Forward are required to demonstrate that they have a path to meeting the state's decarbonization requirements in order to get the New York Forward funding amounts.
I'll just add, what the typical thing is that all buildings that meet these standards are typically 10% more efficiency than the standard base code, 10% more energy efficient.
That's how it's calculated.
Yeah, there's a couple of different compliance paths, but that's just the overall standard is that they're about 10% more efficient. We always absolutely encourage them to go full carbon neutral, but like we want to see some progress on that.
And can I ask why that only applies to this project, Jill?
Sure, because this one was the only one that was big enough, so.
Oh, I see,
think-
okay, so it's about size.
Yeah.
If it's a new build of 5,000 square feet and larger, their requirement, and then for renovations, I think it's 25?
You have to be 5,000 square feet and then meet a couple of like different criteria, like you are doing 50% of replacement or more of like the exterior facade, so something that's really like substantial.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll see like the Black Box Theater was not required to do it, nor was Vet Rep, just because of their size, they didn't meet the size requirement. And same with Donahue.
And something to add too is that although for all the projects, if they weren't required to meet with NYSERDA's consultant, they were still able to. So we did have a couple, or at first we did have a couple of project sponsors wanting to meet with NYSERDA, just to pick their brain, to have an understanding of maybe some sustainable elements that they could implement into their project design.
Yeah, I know, I don't know that I know they're working on a one-pager, which I think is still in draft mode, but I know as far as some of the carbon neutral stuff, I believe they're, let me see, carbon negative sheathing, VRF, high efficiency heat pumps, ERVs, low E glass, and triple pane. So I think they're
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
thinking about doing that. I don't know if they've provided that to you yet, but
Yes,
Yeah.
so being that they are going to apply to be a Hilton Tapestry
Yeah.
boutique hotel, Hilton already has a set of standards for sustainability that they have to meet in
Yep.
order to become the Tapestry Hotel. So they did already have that list of sustainability.
you have the letter from them too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So so they provide that with, to us, we provide that to NYSERDA, we have a call with NYSERDA, and now they have to decide on their compliance path.
Sure.
In addition to what they're doing for the Hilton to now comply with the state's requirements.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure if they've yet decided on what they want to do, but we did let them know that it would be a good idea to let us know so we could put it in the profile so the state is aware of it.
Sure.
And so to that end, they did meet with NYSERDA's consultants to discuss their compliance path, and also their budget increased to include contingency costs. Here's the before images. I'm sure you all know what it looks like. And then after. And I believe it is yet to go through, they will go through a public design phase where it needs like some approvals for its design.
They are currently before the planning board, and they may be on the November meeting. If they can resolve their stormwater issue, either they come up with a stormwater plan or they stay under an acre of disturbance and they don't need to do it. They will potentially be on for November, and if that goes well, we'll have a public hearing and hopefully a vote in December.
Okay.
So this is gonna possibly by December be approved. If not, maybe it goes into January, but this is, very much near the end of the approval process.
For public support, we heard the hotel will benefit the community and visitors, aesthetic improvement to the building, and revenue generation. Suggested improvements, reduce the size of the hotel, address parking and traffic concerns on Main Street, general concerns about private funding ability to fund long-term. In terms of how transformative, this one I'd say also did very well in terms of high transformation potential. For the budget, we have infrastructure and site work, $528,000. That would be paid through private equity. Furniture and fixtures, $986,000, also paid for by private equity. And then construction and renovation, this is where I'm gonna blame you two for putting this budget in. I can't total that all up, so you guys will have to just wing it there. That will be paid for by a combination of USDA loan, New York Forward Grant, CFA, they've applied for CFA funding, also private financing. Soft costs of about $440,000, that would be paid for through the New York Forward. Architectural engineering site work, another $110,000, paid for through private equity. And then parking, hard costs, and site improvements of $550,000 through private financing. All told, the total project cost would be $8.7 million. They're requesting New York Forward funding request as $1 million, and then $7.7 million would come from USDA loan, private financing, and private equity. Their budget was prepared by Two Boys, One Girls Holding LLC, and the budget does include a contingency of 10%.
I wonder how many kids the project Equestrian has. Anybody know?
I can guess.
Just curious. Wonder if he has 2 boys and 1 girl.
Oh my gosh, I never even thought about that. What? I was honestly wondering why the name was that.
You're not a mom.
Obviously. No, I just have 2 cats, so that's it.
You're a cat mom.
Yeah.
Can you explain the Hilton, I thought last time we had heard Hilton had accepted them, but you just said they are applying for Hilton.
Oh, that was just more of broader talking. They are working with Hilton to become the Hilton Tapestry. So
It's a process.
I believe so. I know that they have had conversations with Hilton, and I do have letters from Hilton indicating that of intent. Yes.
Yeah,
that's
Hilton
the word.
won't sign a formal contract until they have a formal approvals from the town. So it's basically as far as it can go without having, you know, conditional final approval from the planning board.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess I'll ask this because I've been asked by so many community members, so I'll do it live and we've talked about this. There was, in the beginning, going to be a rooftop bar. Now there's not, correct?
Correct.
And now it's a restaurant and bar. Community members want to be reassured that they can use this bar and restaurant
Oh,
if they're not staying in the hotel.
no.
Okay,
That's correct, they can use it will be, the bar and restaurant will be open to the public.
okay, you
Yes.
heard it here first.
Yes,
folks.
it will be open to the public.
Yeah, that was a big, a lot. I've been
Okay.
asked that a lot,
Okay.
so.
So, does the state have, obviously you have all the records that they supply to you. My only observation at this point is that there seems to be $7 million of this $8 million project that's still up in the air. They're not secured, it's requested or anticipated. Do we have any clarity on the percentage of that funding coming in? I mean, that's,
Let's see, I believe for secured, we have
I see
1.6 million about has been secured. And then in terms of anticipated, that's where the private financing comes in.
I
And
did quick math in my head, it was like 7 million.
Right. My assumption is that actually it's not an assumption, they already told us it would be a private construction loan.
So just having, you know, been involved in economic development in New York City and working with NYC EDC, this is a very common, when you're going through these processes, like, yeah, maybe you have private equity secured, you have your other sources and uses, all those things come into play when you get approvals and you start lining things up. So this is completely common in my mind for how this is. Like, no one's gonna go out and, you know, and have all this financing secured without having the approvals, because the bank won't approve it until you have the approvals from the town. So this is like, I think as far as they can possibly get without having the approvals.
Yeah,
So I think that's.
I would agree, we've seen this before, this
Yeah.
is similar to what the private, like the larger private, you know, sort of like housing developments that I've seen in other DRIs or New York, I guess only DRIs, they tend to look like this, where there's a handful of private equity, and then they've also applied for a CFA or whatever other grants that are out there, and then the rest is construction.
So thanks for speaking to that. My question
Yeah.
is usually geared to provide the public an opportunity to hear that answer, and
Mhm.
someone's home thinking about it, so thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good question.
yep.
Good answer.
Do we have any other questions about the hotel? Next up, transform the Lemon Building at 257 Main Street into an art gallery and restaurant incubator. To be to transform the Lemon Building into the first commercial art gallery in the U.S. to specialize only in veteran artists, as well as feature a restaurant incubator for veteran-owned businesses in the food and beverage space. Newer forward funding would support the build-out of phase 1 of the project, which includes the art gallery, bar, and any food beverage concepts inside the existing structure. A future phase includes the creation of a rooftop restaurant and kitchen space. Project sponsor is Cornwall Imaginarium LLC. And project updates. Since we last saw you, they have revised we've revised the project name and project description a little bit. The project scope has changed from 3 phases to 2 phases. 2 phases. Since the project scope has changed, the total cost has changed. Total project cost has increased from 1.9 million, decreased from 1.9 million to 730,000. And New York Forward has request has decreased from 703,000 to 589,000.
I will also note, we have not fully vetted if this is in fact the first commercial art gallery in the U.S. to specialize in veteran artists only. We have not vetted that statement quite yet.
Yeah, I was a little surprised because I thought we took that out, but anyway. Whoops. This is the existing conditions, so some of the interior and exterior. In the interior, you can see that's the old vault and the bank tellers, which I think they are planning, which I know they are planning to keep. And then this is the proposed This is not the final design, this is just a concept. That is still being worked on, but this is the idea that the back would be the kind of main entrance, though they would do improvements to the front as well. And then the interior with the bar and art gallery.
Just to clarify, that's the rear of the building, not the front of the building.
Right.
On Main Street.
Yes.
There was a question last time about accessibility in terms of entrance to the building. I'm seeing stairs on both sides. Do we know how that's been solved?
I don't.
I thought they were gonna build an elevator.
So that's what the rear is, that
Okay,
is,
so that's
that's,
the main entrance.
that's like the elevator
Oh, okay,
thing, so
yeah.
I'm assuming that there'll be
Okay.
ramps on the sides getting into the elevator to be accommodating, but we can, bring that up to the sponsor. And again, the sponsor wasn't exactly pleased with the renderings, as Jill was mentioning, they're just like the preliminary version, so there's still some tweaking to be done to them, so we can bring it up to him just so he incorporates those into the latest iteration.
Seems like these are the ones that come out of the cap program rather than the.
I will say that about all of our renderings, none of them are set in stone. So the final product, these are more representations of what they could be.
Can we flip back to the previous slide?
Sure. In terms of public support, favorite project aspects were a rooftop bar and restaurant. Beginning to see a theme here. Cornwall, if you'd like to drink from you. Outside apparently. Supports veterans and preserves historic building. Suggested improvements, ensure inclusivity for all community members. Change project name to provide clarity, and complete project in one phase. In terms of transformation, this is another one, continuing the trend of seeing pretty strong public support in terms of how transformative people think the project will be.
Can I say a question about the budget?
Yeah.
Sorry if I missed this. Did the overall project cost go way down or way up?
Down.
It went down.
That's a pretty significant drop. How did that happen?
I think
So he
That has to do with the
removed,
fact that it's just one phase.
that's part of it.
so it went from
but-
3 phases to 2 phases. The 3 phases included renovating the first floor, renovating the second floor to accommodate a performance space, a bookstore, some more art gallery space, and then doing the rooftop restaurant on the 3rd floor. They have since removed the second floor element. So for now, it's going to be I don't want to say basic, but they're going to retrofit the first floor to accommodate a bar, incubator space for a kitchen use, and then the art gallery surrounding the teller space. And then the 3rd floor, which is going to be the rooftop bar and restaurant.
Yeah, and I would also ask that kind of like first floor budget, I think includes some basic improvements to the second floor to make it usable, but not to the same, but it's not gonna be fully renovated as it was in the initial phase.
At the risk of sounding like an idiot, I'm not sure what a restaurant incubator is. I know what a business incubator, I don't know how you, I'm used to a restaurant either being there or not being there.
So,
Like a kitchen incubator? Is that-
it's a kitchen incubator, so a kitchen space is going to be developed in the rear of, so a kitchen is going to be installed in the rear of the building on the 1st floor. And their hope is to get a veteran who's interested or already has a small, let's say bakery, that they're interested in really growing the bakery. So they'll rent out this space and then be able to sell their goods to the
That's the
consumers.
incubator
Okay.
piece, okay.
So it's that they're growing
Yeah.
their business either from what they have already or from the ground up if they don't have one yet.
So basically, it's a kitchen that is open for use.
Like a commercial kitchen.
Yeah, right,
Yes.
okay, all right, got
Well, for just one client? Or,
it. At a time, I would assume.
Okay.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
think, well, the project sponsor, when we last spoke with him, and we had a lovely tour during the Fall Fest, which was very helpful, I have to say, to see it inside. He's still contemplating the design, whether they want to have one large kitchen in the rear, which was the bank manager's office space, if anyone's familiar with the building, and then possibly a smaller little, maybe not a kitchen, but maybe just a display case, where they could sell pastries or something like that in the front. So it still might be 2 different vendors, or it could be one. I think they're still trying to decide that.
If you've been to the Beacon Food Hall, that's what I like use as a reference. So in the Beacon Food Hall, you have I think 5 or 6 different vendors there, restaurants that are there. But there's one main prep kitchen that they all share. And so the benefit of that is that, you know, they're paying a lower rent. It allows them to incubate their, you know, their concept or their ideas, and they're sharing a, you know, a full kitchen space. So that's kind of the way that.
Yeah, I mean, like another good example is like Hot Bread Kitchen in the city, that's
Right.
one, although this isn't maybe exactly applicable. Sometimes you have, you know, you may have like multiple chefs or bakers that go through, they develop a product or whatever, and then they attract investors, and then you spin them off, and they go open something somewhere else, and then you repeat, you know, you rinse and repeat. And
Yeah.
so I don't know if that's his model for this, but that's sort of how I've seen it done.
I think that's
similar to
Chris's big
that.
journey, right? Chris's journey is to help people kind of
Absolutely.
leap off from.
Totally inclusive
Right.
and helping people.
I just wanted clarity on, I mean, you know, space is limited, on like the number of clients that could work at once. Because I've been part of commercial kitchen business incubators too, and I'm more familiar with the model where the folks who are using it can sell wherever they like. They're not restricted to the restaurant that's on site.
Absolutely.
So you could have like, I don't know, maybe 25, 50 clients at the same time who are all trying to grow a business and eventually leave the incubator, but it sounds like space would sort of preclude that for this.
Yeah, I mean, that would come down to like how big your cold refrigeration and freezer spaces and how big the workspaces would tell you how many people could probably, and I don't know, I haven't seen the plans.
I just wanted
Yeah,
clarity.
sure.
I don't have strong feelings either way, but just, you know, space is always going to be a limiting factor.
Yeah, but it's not, it might not be their only, they might be selling it.
Yep, sure,
elsewhere,
right.
too.
Where is this project in the project readiness scale?
Sorry, I think, so they have not yet gone to the town with their designs. They're still fleshing out the design and the overall concept of the project, and then they will ultimately end up going to the planning board for their review. But they want to make sure that their design is fleshed out. And when we spoke with Chris at the Fall Festival, he said he really wanted to take in public consideration into the overall design. So I think there's still some things that need to be fleshed out, and then they plan on going to the planning board and the town within the next couple of months, it sounded like.
Because, you know, hearing that there's a commercial kitchen aspect, that has a whole bunch of code requirements and HVAC requirements attached to it, you know. I mean, do we feel that that's represented by the budget that we've seen?
The client came, the sponsor came, the person who came up with the budget. We felt like it seemed reasonable for the expectation. Costs may go up, we don't know. They did include a 10% contingency for that.
And their architects are the ones that are preparing the cost estimate, so it's not just the sponsor doing it themselves. So they do have someone with experience preparing the budgets, and we've had several conversations about the budgets with the sponsor, and so we do feel comfortable that they're covering all costs, but again, as Jill said too, they do have the contingency added into there.
And it's going to be operated as a for-profit enterprise.
Yes. Any other questions? All right, transform Riverlight Park into an inclusive public park. Improve Riverlight Park with new features such as ADA compliant walkway with a story walk around Rings Pond, ADA compliant restrooms, an inclusive playground, and a new skate park. Other project elements include improved drainage with rain gardens and the renovation of the ice house for use as a public pavilion, and renovation of Sands Ring Homestead Museum. Project sponsor is the town of Cornwall. Project updates, the costs have increased from $2.2 million to $3.6 million. Those costs, actually I'll talk about that in a minute as to why those have increased that much. The New York Forward ask has decreased from $1.27 million to $1 million. And the town has identified other sources of funding for projects. Seriously, every single time we talk to the supervisor, he's like, oh wait, I got another grant for this. Like I think every single time. And also Rings Pond water quality enhancements have been added to the project. This is before, and then again, we have representational images for each of the public projects. So this is the kind of a rendering for after conditions. And then in public support, we have favorite project aspects, skate park, ADA accessibility, and inclusive playground. Suggested improvements would be to renovate the pool, control the geese.
Of course.
Yeah. We're gonna get border collies for that. Which I hear work pretty well.
Very effective.
Then you're gonna have to control the board.
Yeah. And then programming for young children. How transformative. I think you guys can see, I think it's a little bit more in the middle than some of the other projects in terms of how transformative it is.
Why did the comment say that you understand why this is seen as less transformative?
My guess is that maybe it's seen as more of a transformative in terms of an economic development standpoint. It's not as transformative, I think, in that regard. I think if we were to ask the question of public benefit, this would have scored much higher than some of the other projects.
Yeah, but I would say that the public benefit draws in the economic benefit as well. As people come in, spend more time in town, they linger, and they might go up to Main Street and spend money, so it's symbiotic. But you're right, it's more public benefit.
Has there been much discussion about, because I see on there the suggestions regarding the renovation of the pool, does it make sense to renovate the pool first before adding another feature such as a skate park, right? Pool being something that the town is already utilizing to a certain extent, and we know that there are issues with regards to the pool. So, was there much feedback from the community on that?
Oh, there definitely was feedback.
That's a $6 million project, the pool.
What's that?
I said the pool's a $6 million project.
Okay.
That's very expensive.
That we're at the very beginning of the process on.
So it's a different project.
And we don't even know if the public wants us to do that. We're gonna have to do major public, feedback sessions on that. I mean, we may have people that say we don't want it, we're at the very beginning. This is kind of like, and the town's intention is sometime in November, December to get back at the pool. We've probably got 6 months of public engagement, followed by figuring out, do we want to spend $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $6 million? But it just couldn't fit with this process because it's, gonna take a year of design and,
Are there other funding opportunities? I know Newburgh, they're doing a whole huge project, their aquatic center. Basically, they ripped out the old one and they started from scratch. Are we looking at other funding options in that area?
The only one that would be likely, and so would be the Parks grant through the state. Money from our state legislators, but I believe Newburgh is using a big chunk from their CARES Act funding that they got, from the pandemic, and the rest is being farmed. So, I mean, typically, if you look at what Woodbury did when they built theirs, there was no public grants in that at all. It was all just, financing, paid back over 30 years. So, I mean, there's generally not pool grants that the state gives out, just generally, it's just not like a thing. I mean, I don't know that I've seen that often.
So Woodbury floated a bond?
Yeah.
The ban upon anticipation.
Yeah, so I mean, pools are generally not paid for out of, and quite frankly, I feel like it wouldn't be, unless we were gonna build like a massive center and we were gonna do a whole bunch, to promote it, and we wanted to have people from all over the state coming to our pool. I don't know how this would fit anyway, because we would have to generate revenue, and it would have to be a draw for visitors, and I don't know if the town wants to have people from all over Orange County coming to our pool. So I think that's like another reason why we didn't put it in here too.
I will say that during the planning process that the pool was mentioned to us as being a consideration. And so that's why part of the project includes move the playground. Since they want a new playground anyway, it'll likely be moved so that way it can accommodate any future in case the pool is redone. So the pool has definitely been in the back of everybody's mind in terms of design and what to include in this.
Oh, we're gonna go right into that right after this, right after New York Forward's over. I'm crazy enough to go after the pool next, so that's happening next.
Do we have any kind of indication of demand for the skate park? I mean, I don't feel
There's,
one way about it.
there's more than
or the other.
1,000 kids and parents that signed a petition requesting one.
Ah, okay.
And I will say, if you remember the public, that was, I think that was one of the top
like the top
comments.
This is the top.
Yeah.
And when we did our initial public survey to apply for the grant, we
That
got
was
a lot
way
of
up there.
feedback as well.
Okay.
Yes.
It was.
There's a lot of data supporting it, yeah.
I figured that, and that's why it was there.
Yeah,
So as I mentioned before, the project is increased in cost by over $1 million. The reason for that is that the one new element was pond water quality enhancement. This is when the supervisor was able to secure some state grants for that. So then it just made sense to add that into this project. And then also, since we last saw you, the engineer, the town engineer, MHE Engineering, was able to more finally go through the budget and go everything, and also get an architect into Sands Ring Homestead. So costs went up there. Same with the skate park. And the ice house renovation, it was originally thought that we could just redo the ice, just renovate the ice house, just throw some new flooring in it, but there's concerns about the structural integrity of it, so it might have to be rebuilt, so that cost went up quite a bit. And so in terms of cost, Sands Ring Pond, the Rings Pond Story Walk is about $782,000, which would be paid for through New York Forward and CFA Parks Grant, both which have been requested. Rain gardens and pond water quality enhancements, $673,000, paid for by a combination of New York Forward, town, and other secured state grants. Restroom rehabilitation, $276,000, that would be the Little League restrooms. That would be paid for through New York Forward and anticipated CDBG funding that can be used on those. They would be ADA compliant. Ice house renovation, $250,000, requested through New York Forward.
That could be more or less. Once the engineers get in there, it's possible that it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. These budgets can switch, are expected to shift. They usually do, but the New York Forward asks those do not shift. The accessible playground, about $400,000. The town was able to secure a DASNY SAM grant for that, and then the rest would be paid for through New York Forward. The skate park would be about $540,000, and that would be, the town is proposing to use private donations for a part of that. And then the rest would be paid for by the town and through New York Forward. Sands Ring Homestead renovation, $163,000, combination of town fundraising and grants as well. There's expected to be a fundraising component through the museum as well. Sands Ring Homestead kiosk, so this would be a kiosk that, like one of those electronic kiosks. You'll see an example of one later, but it could be different for here. About $104,000 requested through New York Forward, and then soft cost of $441 requested through New York Forward, for a total budget of $3.629 million. And then the New York Forward funding request is $1 million. Percent requested of total budget cost is 28%. And this budget includes a contingency of 15%. And this was done through MHE Engineering, which is the town's engineering consultant. And we had these verified through Trophy Point, and they said these all look great, so.
Just with the water quality improvements, I love that that's on there. Does the town have intentions, or has done, I'm not sure, to see if the pond is at proper depth, to have it healthy, it's not just turning into a swamp and the detritus isn't building up inside of it? Is that part of that, or
That's
has that
currently,
been done?
that's, the town's engineering firm has an environmental consultant staffer who's finalizing all of that into a report. The $400,000 that we secured from the state roughly is to deal with that, whether or not that be for dredging or other measures that need to happen. We just don't know until we, fully get into that, but we do have $400,000 in state funding for that.
Look into that.
Yeah.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
thanks.
I also want to say, I think adding the, demonstration water quality component to it is very strong. I think, especially what you were saying about some projects needing to meet NYSERDA standards, which this is water, not energy, but same thing. And then I have a 10th question. What's a story wall?
Oh, I can show you an example, because we had it in our rendering. So the idea is that you can see those little blue signs, is that they would have, so there would be signage, you can kind of see it all dotted around the pond. So when you're walking around, and these would be switched out by the town or the library, so there would be a story. So say you were walking through, you would start off as like, a ugly duckling or something. It'd be, you get to read the whole story as you walk around the
request
pond.
by the public library, they asked it, when it first started, they wanted to just do it. And then, we got awarded the grant, then they were like, well, can we, work on that, make it a little bit nicer? So they would be the ones that would be, maintaining this. We would just basically put them in the ground, and they would, switch them out however often they want to, but it's for the kids.
So it's like special signage, so you can go in and you can like replace, so it's like covered in plexiglass, but you can change out the story.
And it's gonna lead back to the library too, that's the goal, is to
Right,
kind of.
I was gonna tell Amy, he doesn't know the structure of our library's right here.
It's like right down the hill.
I did actually know that, but I
Okay,
appreciate
yeah.
it.
I know you're always asking where things were.
Yeah.
That's cool to lead to the library.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Any other questions? Next up is link Cornwall's downtowns through a pollinator connector trail. Improve sidewalks and crosswalks, add public art, uniform street furniture, public restroom and street trees, and pollinator plantings to facilitate a fully accessible, engaging, and safe pedestrian connection from St. Luke's Montefiore Hospital through both the town and village downtowns down to Donahue Memorial Park. Project sponsors are the Town of Cornwall and Village of Cornwall and Hudson. Project updates, the town has added new locations for sidewalk improvement, or more specifically Willow Avenue. Costs have increased from $855,000 to $2.157 million. The New York Forward ask has increased from $755,000 to $1.133. These costs have increased. I think one is the project has transformed from original conception, which was kind of some more vague ideas, to actually like putting it into more thought into it and actually mapping out locations where trees could go and different things like that. So as the project's been refined, of course, that means the budget has gone up. But now we feel like the budget is a better representation of what it will actually cost. And then we prepared two renderings for this one. This is the before, and then this is the after. And I'm going to kind of just point some things out, because I know at the public meeting it was a little hard to see, but then when people actually saw them, they were like, oh, I get it. So you can see it would not actually be Keith Haring mural, but it would be some sort of mural on the side of the Verizon building.
Keith Haring.
Thank you. What did I say?
No, I love him, that's
oh,
why,
I
you
thought
said
I-
it might not necessarily be that, which you're right, but,
But unless the mayor gets his way, then
no,
it
that's
is.
one we like.
And then there would be, you can kind of see the pollinator plantings kind of throughout. And then it's kind of hard to see, but there are some banners in there. They're like Heroes Walk banners, so there would be like flags as you were going down. And then there would also be planter boxes and benches and matching trash receptacles and light posts that have like the planters on them as well.
They look nice, but I don't see any trees.
Yeah, unfortunately, we picked one area where there would be no trees, but they're further down. The engineer was actually able to see quite a bit of areas where they could accommodate trees.
You'll see when we get to the budget that there's quite a lot of money in there for trees.
Yeah. And then we did one for the village as well, so this is the before. And then here's the after. So it would include signage, and you see pollinator planting there, and then the sidewalk, and then lamp posts. This is all preliminary. This is not like the final design. Of course, this is just a representation of what could be there. And public support, favorite project aspects, improve sidewalks and walkability, connects town and village, public restrooms. suggested improvements. Focus on improving sidewalks for pedestrian safety and use, include more street lighting, and address parking concerns.
Can't get away from parking.
And turn water into wine.
Sounds funny. It's not like about addressing, it's not, you're not driving to the station.
Right, right, it's meant to get rid of cars and walk.
Right.
Right.
And I would say, parking problems are a sign of good things happening. People want to be there.
In terms of how transformative, you know, I think again, this one scored quite well. And then for the budget, we have sidewalks and crosswalks, $618,000. We paid through the town and CDBG funding that they will request. Public restrooms, $58,000. Village will be on the hook for that. Electronic kiosks, $621,000 requested through New York Forward. That's for a total of 6. That would be kind of split throughout the trail. Street trees, planter boxes, pollinators, $411,000, split between New York Forward and the town. Triangle Park landscaping, $23,000 for the town. Art installations, $104,000. I believe that included for about up to 6 art installations. Requested through New York Forward. Street furniture and amenities, $73,000. Soft cost, $249,000, also through New York Forward. So the total project cost is $2.157 million. The total New York Forward requested funding is $1.133 million. And total funding from other sources is just over $1 million. The other sources of funding, there's a CDBG grant that is anticipated for $175,000. And then the town and village will contribute the remaining $982,000.
And I think it's important to point out the reason why the village is on the hook for the public restroom is we're looking to put another composting toilet behind the bandstand, so where the municipal lot is, so when people come down to shop, they don't have to find a place to go to the bathroom, because from the waterfront to the library, you know, unless you're going into a private business, there are no public bathrooms. So our goal is to stagger them through the entire connector trail, since the town has facilities at Rings Pond.
Question, so as these projects move through the development process, are there opportunities for, you know, changes to those projects and gaining additional community feedback on specifics and things like that?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So if something were to be left out, but there's already funds there for that, I guess.
So yeah, typically if these were to be awarded, particularly the public projects, we believe more in like the spirit of the project rather than like the letter of the law. So like this is really to kind of gain, like we said, like a planning level estimate. But like why we have soft costs in there is because there is going to be a full like design. And I often see communities that will have like project advisory committees and public workshops as well around these public projects because they are so impactful.
So what I was going to say on that is that once, you know, should this project get awarded by the state, you know, I'm sure the town and the village, at least on this one, but I intend to, you know, put up an advisory committee that's going to work with myself and the town's consultants and, you know, whoever the landscape architect and engineer is on this to kind of advise on this. I mean, look, some of the, you know, some of the costs in here, we could decide that we don't want to do electronic kiosks and we want to do, well, maybe we want one, right? Maybe we don't want them all to be.
Our mind.
But I think, so maybe it should just be kiosks. Or it should be, you know, I think this is just one of those, like, we'll figure out what that's gonna be, I think, when we get to the process and we're working with the designer and we have more time to think it through,
Yeah. Okay.
you know?
I think what the state's gonna wanna see is that like,
Yeah.
the proposed goal is to connect the town and the village.
Yeah.
Is that the improvements are intending to do that, that may not necessarily be these.
I just think it's important for the public to understand that, right? That these aren't necessarily like letters of the law, right? There's
Correct.
flexibility in there. There's going to be additional community input as these things get developed.
Oh, yes.
And outreach, and there will be, in that, this committee wants to make sure that that happens.
want to, I love the idea of changing electronics kiosks to signage in some way. I have a lot of strong feelings about analog versus digital.
Ditto.
I'd be happy to share them with you at some point.
And look, that could totally be, we could have, so look, that could end up being, you know, kiosks, you know, wayfinding. Well, we do
That's
have,
what was in
we
the
do have
project
some of that
initially.
in another initiative, so
That's a
I guess
different
what I'm
project.
saying is that could end up, yes, that could be, that's a placeholder, so I don't know, is there room to change that a little bit? Like
Oh,
the,
yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
wording? Yeah. okay.
Yeah, we can certainly change it just to be kiosks and leave the,
Yeah.
See,
And the other thing I would just say too, like on the, up on the sidewalks, crosswalks are also left out of that too is, so part of where one of those sidewalks is gonna be is the Hasbrook Drainage Project. And when we get the construction grant for that, we're gonna use whatever the balances we don't get from CDBG through the construction grant for the Hasbrook Drainage Project. There's gonna probably be like hardly any sidewalk money paying for that. You know, I mean, so it's not gonna be, I think the public wanted sidewalks too. I mean, if you look in there, I think those were the ones they wanted. So we're gonna look to address some of the it just so happens that some of the worst areas of sidewalks in the town happen to be the places that we're trying to connect. So it works out.
I would like to be a dreamer and like envision bike paths and stuff like that that are designated for, I know there's not a lot of space and I'm not an engineer to come up with that stuff, but it's like, stuff like that can always get added in, right, later on?
oh, correct, yes, yep.
Yeah, we should-
Nothing in the street bed would actually be touched, so that can all be addressed at a later time. I think that was discussed towards the beginning of this process is something that would really, that would
There are-
potentially change the streetscape, but that was a little bit further off in that, yeah.
In
what
order to
this
do any,
process could
because
do.
if you recall, we had wanted to do something with like the parking pattern, and that would require I believe a variance actually for the fire lane to do it. And there was no way we could have worked through that process, because it's just not wide enough on either side. So we'd have to go to Susan's agency and get a variance from the state on that. So we couldn't really put it in here until we know that that's a possibility.
Okay,
So anyway, sorry.
yeah, that's okay. Any other questions? Establish a small project fund to assist local businesses. Establish a small project fund to provide the business community with resources to further enhance the economic vitality of downtown Cornwall. Projects could include facade improvements, interior improvements that allow for business expansion, and other capital improvement projects. Grants would be reimbursed up to $50,000 and require a 25% match from the applicant. The sponsor would be both the town and the village. And in terms of project update, is that the town and the village reach out to the Chamber of Commerce and ask them to help solicit businesses to see what the amount of interest is. For this particular project, the state requires that there are letters of interest from businesses. They want to make sure that there's really a demand for this type of project before they fund it. And the good news is that thus far, the Chamber of Commerce received 11 letters of interest, totaling about $452,000 in potential small project fund requests. The improvements ranged from $20,000 to $75,000. And an additional 4 businesses expressed potential interest in the small project fund, but did not specify an amount. So the good news is that there definitely seems to be, among the business community, that there is interest in this, and there is shown to be that they could spend all $300,000.
Jill, this was also available in the DRI process too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this question. Did any community that received the DRI opt not to ask for the small project? They did?
Yes.
What would you say the percentages were? I mean, would majority ask for it, not ask for it, equal?
I would say the majority typically ask for it. I'd say one of the reasons that some may not have asked for it is because, I think as you all heard, it is like a process. There's a lot of paperwork, and so that can be daunting for some communities. But I think like we're constantly working to make improvements on the state side to make that less daunting, but it is the state.
Got it. They felt accosted.
I will say, you know, as the president of the Chamber of Commerce and going out there and talking with the businesses, this small business fund, I think the other, real positive aspect of this and getting this approved is, it's a heck of a way to really engage the community in this whole process. And when I went and had the conversations with the business owners, and you can see by the level of interest, it's exciting for them, right? They see the opportunity to talk to them about the New York Forward project. It really gave them a real sense of ownership and engagement into this process.
Well said.
And thank you for your work on this, by the way. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
This is just a potential before and after picture. So before and after. So these are some of the types of improvements that could be made through this, through the small project fund. Public support, favorite aspects, support small businesses, beautification of Main Street, improve business facades. Suggested improvements, more funding needed, provide more detailed information, and ensure protections for small businesses. Ensure protections for small businesses. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Meaning keep them in business probably, or
No, but it's an
inflation.
improvement, they will,
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
by improving their business, that's gonna help to keep them in business, I guess, would be the way that I would interpret that.
Maybe they don't, so basically the small business owner does the project and they get reimbursed. Is that how that's?
Yes, that's how it works. So the letters of intent that the business owners signed all stated that they understood that what it meant was that they would be on the hook for 25% of it. And then also that they would spend the money outright and then get reimbursed. So there is an understanding amongst the people who said that they intend to go through with this.
I'm thinking switch off,
Yeah.
that they want to ensure the protections, that they get their money. That's,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's what that means.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, part of
That
how
makes
it's gonna work is it's gonna be like an administrator that's set up, that's gonna, handle all of this, and there's gonna be contracts involved and a vetting review process. So before anyone gets it, so just like, I guess, when the town gets a grant, you gotta make sure that you signed the grant before you started the work. Because anything you did before you started is not eligible for reimbursement. So we'll have to make all that clear to whoever's gonna go for this, because we don't wanna have people doing the work and then not able to get reimbursed. That would be.
And I just want to note, that actually applies to all projects, so like. and
Oh,
so-
yeah, of course.
Yeah,
No, I mean,
small
we're-
projects, but all.
I mean,
I was gonna say that, yeah.
we're completely familiar with that
Yeah.
as municipalities, obviously.
The budget for this is pretty simple. The budget is prepared essentially through DOS and HCR guidelines, through which 10% is supposed to go towards grant administration. HCR added a new requirement this year where they want municipalities to hire an outside administrator. So for this, the town and the village would hire somebody. So that would be 30%, or 30,000, and then the small project fund would be 270 that would go towards, 1,000 that would go towards businesses. This one, total budget of 300,000, 100% requested from DRI funding.
I just want to add one thing to this. While it says $0 for total funding from other sources, the project does require 25% match from each of the small businesses, so that would be kind of the private leverage into this.
Joe, does the LPC have an ability to adjust that number at this point, since we've seen a demand from the business owners, and we all agreed that it was low before?
Unfortunately, the state says 300,000 is the max.
That's the max? Okay.
Any other questions? Establish and implement a branding, marketing, and wayfinding strategy, enhance the visibility of downtown Cornwall and attracting residents, businesses, and visitors to downtown Cornwall by establishing brands, developing marketing strategy, and creating wayfinding signage. The project sponsor would again be the town and village together. Project updates. Project cost has increased from $325,000 to $402,000, and the New York Forward ask has increased from $325,000 to $382,000. And we kind of reused this image, so again, a little before and a little after, and you see some wayfinding signage in the background there. And then the kiosk, which may or may not be electronic.
So what I'm wondering is actually how the kiosk piece can be, well, we can talk offline, but we can like change that to be
Yeah.
like kiosks and or wayfinding signage?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. And this person's fabulous shawl does not come with the project.
Yeah.
I thought you were wearing a rug.
Looks like a Game Boy.
Somebody just came back from Persia. Beautiful.
Favorite project aspects: attract new businesses, helpful for visitors, uniform signage. Suggested improvements include research/info on town history. We did receive many who questioned whether this was the best use of taxpayer money, and collaborate with businesses and surrounding communities. This is the one project where I think the public support was on the low side.
Is that typical for these?
Yes.
Yes.
This is
Because
a-
it's an abstraction, and that's
Yes.
tough to, you're not showing them something that's.
Not flashier.
And it's also, if you live here, you're like, I know how to get around.
Right.
I know what's here. I don't need this. It's more to entice people from outside, which, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously the include research info on town history, that was always gonna be a part of this.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
collaborate, I mean, number 3, that's a definite, I mean, as far as number 2, that's, this is an economic development place finding grant, so that fits in.
We estimated the budget was prepared by Kevin Dworka, who is our economic consultant. He looked through past DRI budgets and had also made some calls to firms that would do some of this work to verify these costs. Branding, about $445,000 requested through New York Forward. Marketing, $94,000, also requested through New York Forward. Wayfinding, $292,000, which would be split between New York Forward and the town and village. The town and village would both chip in $10,000 for a total of $20,000. Total project cost $402,000, and then total New York Forward funding request $382,000. And this budget does include a contingency of 10%.
And that was, the town and village was on the hook for keeping a live website. Is this that piece of that?
Yes, the marketing component includes like website design and development, the initial piece, and so we do not cover operating costs long-term, as well as.
And that's what we would maintain.
Exactly.
Any questions on this one? Constructed trail along Dock Hill Road to connect the waterfront to Donahue Farm in the downtown. This constructed 2,500 linear foot trail to allow for safe pedestrian connection between Donahue Farm and Donahue Memorial Park. The project includes new roadside trail, improvements to existing 900 linear feet off-road trail, which would be either crushed stone pathway or something similar, and drainage improvements. The sponsor is the village. Project updates is that the project cost has increased from 1.76 to 1.2. Representation of before and after. This is just the off-road portion. The project also includes upgrading some sidewalks so that the path connects to the park and to Donahue Farm. Public support, improves safety and walkability, adds needed community recreation, improved connection to water, suggested improvements, does not benefit the community, improved connections between sections of the trail, and improved lighting. And then despite that number 1 suggested improvement, I think it did pretty well in terms of transformation.
For expanding the suggested improvements, was that a competitive answer or really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And suggested improvements number 3, improved lighting. Is lighting part of this project? Lighting
is
along the
not-
trail?
It was not an ask, it was
Oh,
not an
okay,
ask
okay,
from
all right,
us.
yeah, I was wondering where
But I
that
think
came
somebody
from.
probably walks its head and goes, boy, it's really dark
Dark
down here,
around
which
here,
is
yeah.
kind of the point, but,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
So it seems to me, I'm not sure if it's been accounted for, but the public, the pollination corridor and some of these town improvements that we're doing in the village, the proposal here has like benches and those types of things, and I know that was also part of the pollination corridor. Is there overlapping cost that's there, or has it all been
No,
separated?
Yeah, we made sure that those are separated out. So
Okay.
in this, you will see that they included signage and landscaping and pollinators. That would be done separate from, it would be in coordination with the trail, but separately.
Oh.
Yeah. And so this includes just shy of $700,000 for repairing the trail, construction, bank stabilization, and guardrails. And that would be paid for through a combination of New York Forward, a Rec Trails grant, and a requested EPF grant. The pedestrian bridge, $345,000 through EPF grant. Signage, landscaping, and pollinators, $26,000 through New York Forward. And then soft costs would be paid for by $221,000 requested through the New York Forward, and then or to be provided by the village. Total project cost of $1.298 million, and then their total requested funding was $480,000. I do want to add on this one is that the village has requested the Rec Trails grant and the EPF grant. They've applied for them. They have indicated, the village has indicated that if those grants do not come through, that they are committed to picking up the costs through the village. The budget was prepared by P&D Consulting Engineers, who's the village engineer, and the budget includes a contingency of $15,000.
I think it's also important to note that when we're talking about the guide rails, I think one of the biggest recommendations I had gotten from a number of people was that, you know, a lot of the guide rails, I guess we don't call them guardrails anymore for some reason, but the guide rails are usually that rusted metal that you have. They weather and they look awful. We have them down at Donnie Memorial Park. We have them running the length of Dock Hill Road. What we're going to do with this is match what they had at Bear Mountain. So Bear Mountain has where it's the wood on one side, much more expensive per linear foot, but what you see is the wood, and then there's some type of metal that runs discreetly on the back side to give it that, you know, to give it that protective, you know, in case you run into it. So that's a point when you look at the cost of that. It was eye-opening to me, but it's the fact that we specifically want that style of guide rail down at Donahue Memorial Park and then all the way up to Dock Hill Road.
Do you have any questions on this one? Donahue Farm, preserve historic structures at the Donahue Farm to enhance programming and activities. Renovate and preserve the Donahue Farm barn and ice house, remove the garage and kennel building, construct new restrooms, and provide a visitor kiosk to facilitate public use of the site. Project sponsor is again the Village of Cornwall and Hudson. The project cost has increased from $723,000 to $925,000. The New York Forward ask, though, has decreased a bit from $667,000 to $649,000. Those are four of this is the ice house and shed, and then this is after. This was, we coordinated this with input from the Donahue Committee.
By next week, the roof is already going to look like that because we did receive $56,000 in anonymous donor funds, and the roof is going to look exactly like the brand-new roof on the barn. So that should be done this week. The guys were down there finishing it up.
It looks great.
It does look good.
I saw it today.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Hey, Mayor,
Sir?
does Scenic Hudson have restrictions on construction materials used, or you can use anything? Or I know they don't want expansion, but do they have restrictions?
Now, I've read the covenant that we have with them, but it has been a while and it is quite lengthy. I think they use terms like, you know, maintains the characteristic and aesthetics. They really don't get down in the dirt and tell us like, hey, you can't put double pane glass in the windows because it was single pane back in 1895.
It's not like a historic society.
Right, no, we can't build anything outside of the building envelope, which includes the 4 buildings that are there right now. You can't build anything higher on a structure than is already there, and you have to run everything by them. So if we said, hey, look, we want to turn this into a bar or a car wash, they would have a problem with that. But no, anything like this, we obviously, our Donnie committee runs that through them, and these things, they think it's a good deal what we're doing.
Any other questions?
This might be a question for the mayor as well. Is the garage kennel building, is that the one building that's,
That's the
Almost
first time
falling
I've
down?
seen garage attached to kennel, so it's the original kennel. It's not a garage. Maybe I missed it on one of the other things. It said garage kennel, what Paul's
Yeah.
talking about, but it's not a garage, it's just a kennel.
okay,
Oh, okay.
Just a kennel building. So that building is a single-floor building. There is a loft in it. It is the only building that the Donahue Committee, after an exhaustive review of it with our engineers, took a look at and said, this is unsalvageable, it needs to be raised. So that's what our plan is to do, is to clean all that up. It's just not salvageable. There's so much damage to it. The reason why the village had to tackle this earlier, there's a sleeve of asbestos on the outside of the chimney, and we have to wait to have all the abatement done before I can send our guys in to take care of it.
Public support, preservation, favorite aspects, preservation and restoration of historic buildings, new programming for community, promotes community engagement. Suggested improvements, expand public programming, include recreational area and soccer field, and create link to local trails. And then in terms of transformative potential, again, I think this did pretty well. Proposed budget breakdown, there have already been some completed activities that were paid for through the village and through private donations. That was the roof and some other, and garden, community garden. And then the barn and ice house renovation would be about $512,000, paid for through New York Forward and the private donation mentioned by the mayor. New restrooms of $113,000, paid for through New York Forward and the village. Kennel demolition and site restoration, $71,000, which will be taken care of by the village. Same with electrical work and irrigation system of $41,000, and then soft costs of $130,000 would be split between New York Forward and the village. Total New York funding request is $649,000. Total project cost is $925,000. So the percent requested of total budget cost is 70%. The budget includes a contingency of 15%. It was prepared by the Donahue Committee, and it was reviewed by P&D Consulting Engineers, and then it was also reviewed by Robbie Paul.
The trifecta.
Yes. Any questions? This is just kind of just to show you guys of where we ended up. Look at that very last column is again the New York Forward asks of $6.9 million. That's the total. Before we move on, we're going to have the public comment. We're going to move it up a little bit before you guys do the voting. But before we do, Chris, we saw you come in and we're going to push you on the spot a little bit because the LPC was able to ask questions of a few of the other project sponsors who are here. Chris is with the Imaginarium, which is the incubator space. So if anybody has questions, if it's okay with you, feel free to ask some questions.
Yeah.
I think one of the questions that we heard was, and you may not have this now, but approximately how many, especially with the kitchen incubator space, like about how many businesses do you think you would be able to accommodate?
Right now, what we're looking at is the potential for 3, 2 inside and 1 on the roof. That can change because depending on who we incubate, there's the potential for up to 4 incubating just on the rooftop alone. Because we can do 1 kitchen that's open concept with 4 different restaurant concepts around it on the roof alone. So that plus 2 spaces that we've already identified in the inside, that could be 6 businesses potentially. It just depends on who we find because the curation process is kind of the secret sauce of all this. So as we go through who we're looking at and see who makes the most sense, that's going to kind of drive how many we actually have.
And I'll open up to the LPC. Any other questions you guys want to ask?
I guess one question was about ADA accessibility. So we understand that there's the elevator We also we showed the rendering of the behind of the building from the back, but we did also say that you're still working on the design of the building, so things might change. In the rendering, it didn't necessarily show ramps getting into the back of the building, so we just want to make sure that is an element that will be incorporated.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's a veteran business. There's nobody cares more about the disabled than we do, you know, on both sides, on front and back of the building. Yeah, absolutely.
And this, when you said, I remember before, this is more for the public, not for me, but this is an all-encompassing veterans, is all-encompassing as far as family, a retired vet, current vet, and all that, right? It was more broader than just an active vet.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Now, when it comes to the commercial art gallery, it will be the first and the only commercial art gallery in the entire country to exclusively feature veteran artists. There is no other gallery in the country that does that. I mean, we're right in between West Point and Storm King. I can't think of a better location for that kind of concept. Everybody likes to wear the flag. This is it. This is what that looks like. So there's that. And then when it comes to the restaurant and the incubator, yeah, we're fortunate in that we do actually have an awful lot of veterans, as the supervisor can attest, that attend the Culinary Institute. So we do have a really nice pipeline there.
Had many in my classroom.
Yeah, yeah. So, but it's been a nice stream of people that we've been able to start getting connected with. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking.
And do we have any questions about the overall New York Forward asks, or? I think with that, we will go to public comment. Is there anybody from the public who has any comments that they wish to provide? Okay. So then we get to the LPC voting. You will see inside, if you go into your folders, you will see your ballot. And unfortunately, there was one project that the New York Forward changed between last night and this morning. So we are going to ask you guys to make that change. And that was, I'm going to go back, actually, I'm going to do right here. It was for the connector trail. The connector trail was originally going to be, or we were considering, the town and the village were considering a New York Forward ask of $1 million, which is what is printed, but it's actually $1,133,000. So if you don't mind, if you could just go in and just scribble it out and write $1,133,000. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. And not anonymous.
Unfortunately not.
They're not. If you could fill out your name.
We want
Yes,
names.
please fill out the top with your name.
Names.
And then,
No one else's name.
before you fill out the rest, we do want to open up the floor for discussion. We want to make sure that the LPC is okay with this full slate of projects. So you're voting not on individual projects, but on the full slate to be advanced to the state. So we want to open up the floor to the LPC. Do you have any questions? Do you have any comments? Do you have any sudden projects that you really want to see left off? We want to know about it now.
But no cheerleading?
No cheerleading.
No cheerleading.
No, sorry.
You cheerlead after.
That's right.
So we, okay, I'm gonna say it, then I'm gonna say it this way. So we can't say, I'm gonna say it, that anything that I would say to the LPC, my personal opinion, anything that we check, right, has the opportunity to go to the state. Correct.
Yes.
Right, so anything we check has the opportunity to go to the state and then be an improvement to our beautiful town and village.
No,
So-
wait a
we
minute.
don't
No.
actually
If you check, you're
So
recusing.
you're checking off, so
You're only
when,
Xing the top.
yeah, so we're,
Checking off.
if
Correct.
only if
All
you're
or nothing.
recusing, you
Yep.
check off the box in the left-hand column.
Right,
Only if you're
that's to
recused
recuse.
yourself from
Scott and I need new forms.
All right.
Okay, we have. So no
Hey,
checking.
Brandy, blame
No
Scott.
checking.
He's
Not following
Blame
directions. Not following
Scott. He's a Marine, he's chewing on a crayon.
And I'm married to one.
We're
The
excited
two
that you're
Marines,
excited.
of course.
Marines can't get it.
Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is anything you
Marines, go
don't
figure.
check,
No,
has the
you're
opportunity.
not checking anything.
You're
You're
gonna go
only
through
checking
crayons.
boxes to recuse yourself.
Without the checks or not, I guess what I'm saying is, whatever we decide to do, anything that could be presented is such a great opportunity for our town and village, and as Scott and I were just saying, anything that goes up and doesn't get picked by the state, we've still got this great groundwork. So they're all great opportunities, is what I wanted to say.
So,
Leaving out the checks
No
and not
checking.
checks.
Right,
so obviously, we are, and we are not ranking these, we are not.
no ranking.
Right,
No,
so the state, it's down to the state to basically say, this meets more of our criteria.
Yes.
and
This
we
goes
like
in
it.
the black box of the state, and they are gonna decide, and often,
You just pull things out of the hat,
you know, so.
But Joe, can we just make that clear one more time for the LPC? So unless you're recusing, you're not checking next to any of the projects.
Yeah.
The only thing you're doing is Xing the top box or the second box, as in, I'm in favor, or I am not in favor of submitting the slate forward. Did I get that right?
So I checked both the top boxes.
Did everybody take, did anybody
Can I
ever
cross
take
out
that?
one? Can I just cross it out?
Yeah.
Just cross it
Yeah,
out.
there we go.
And then
Did
just
you ever
make it
take
very
that,
noticeable.
that test
Yeah,
in high
it's very-
school where
No,
you
initially
got
I
to the
wanted-
very end and then it said,
Just put your
if
name
you
on
did,
Like a
then
check.
you had to stop
it
it,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah.
Are there any concerns about any of the projects? Sorry, I just want to make it clear to raise them now before filling that out. Everyone is there, yeah. Okay.
As far as the strategic investment plan, will we be provided that later on, or is that kept like in-house and just sent to the state?
It's sent to the state, and then it will be released after the state makes its decision on which projects will be.
What's the timeline for that again?
The timeline for that is, we do have a slide, let's see. We only have tentative dates. We can't guarantee anything because, pandemics and all that, the state and that.
You're gonna send it electronically?
So in the end of November, beginning of December is when the strategic investment plan will be submitted to Department of State. They will select the projects maybe in spring 2024. That's kind of the target, but that is, it could change. And then if it is spring, then that would lead us to maybe winter 2024 is when the contracting for the projects will begin.
So spring of 2024, we can anticipate making announcements of winners, or that has to wait until contracts go out?
No,
When announcements would occur.
And just, and so, no work can be done until those contracts are signed,
correct.
or else it's not gonna get reimbursed.
Correct.
So let's just take the hotel or any of these other projects. If they have a part they can start,
Yeah.
they can kind of choose what they would apply their funds towards, because I don't know, let's say the hotel gets its approvals from the town in December, they're not gonna wanna wait a year to like start the project. So I guess they would have to work out a timeline with the contracting agency, right? And then and this would go for, I guess, the vet rep or the theater or any of these, they would have to work that out.
Yes, and
Okay.
so
And
for the hotel, for instance,
Yeah.
when we initially looked at their budget, they had near forward funds allocated towards site work,
Sure.
but they're on the timeline of moving forward with their project and potentially doing site work in like February, so before the contracts are awarded and announced. So they had to reallocate their funds and reallocate where the near forward funds were going towards, so that they can do that and not be locked in and ultimately not get reimbursed for what they have the line items.
And the same thing would go for any of these other private
Exactly.
projects too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. As far as the SIP is concerned, will the mayor and I get a chance to review it and make any edits and changes? Or, like I was just have like a chance to look at it.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. And
Like a
we-
bootleg copy, if you will.
We'll pass it to you.
We'll have holes.
That we promise not to leave on the table at 2 hours when
Well,
we were drinking our
what
coffee.
What we will be doing is the project profiles we'll be sending to we will be sending to you for the municipal projects so that
Sure.
you can review and make sure that they're
Yeah,
accurate.
because we want to get the wording on some of those,
Right.
like with the
Yeah, yeah,
kiosks,
yeah.
right?
The entire strategic investment plan, that's more
No, I'm not- I'm
kept
saying-
under wraps, but the individual project profiles, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else?
You got that? Thanks.
You guys have done a huge amount of work.
Amazing.
Let us really do.
Oh, all right, we did.
Thank you. I didn't know doing it, you.
How about this? How about a round of applause for our New York Forward team? Really?
Thank you, I was not expecting that, so thank you very much. And I do want to, I think this LPC deserves a round of applause. As well. From our perspective, I want to say thank you to the LPC. This particular LPC has been very engaged, very responsive. You've shown up. That always counts for a lot. Asked very good questions. You guys asked really good questions. And so I just want to say thank you because that all makes our job much easier. And I also wanted to say that I've noticed that the town and village, like all the people here, are really nice. Like, it's almost eerie, like in other communities, and like, not to say that other communities aren't, but you guys are especially nice, and I just, seriously.
Make sure you put that in the
in the
strategic
proposal.
investment plan.
Yeah.
I might have really nice.
That'll be in the introduction, right off the bat.
Especially nice.
They're really nice people. I want to second that. There are definitely some communities that I'm like, you know what, I'm not sad to be indigenous.
Which ones are those?
No, yeah,
She's like, no.
but this has just been, it's been a pleasure. I look forward to coming down here every time that I get the chance.
Oh, you can come back after.
Yeah.
And see all of our new things.
Oh, you're stuck with Susan.
Oh, yeah,
for a
you're
while.
stuck with me.
Yeah,
Good.
you won't see me and Christy so much, although I can't wait to go hiking up here next summer, but, so you will see us around, but not as much as Susan. And I also wanted to say on behalf of the three of us, of me and Christy and Susan, that working with the supervisor and the mayor has been a very much a
Sure.
pleasure.
Oh, for sure.
What, the LPC and the public doesn't see is that we're on the phone with them at least once a week, and when we're not on the phone with them, we're barraging them with emails, and they've handled it with grace and with humor and with that special brand of Cornwall kindness, which has very much appreciated. And I never laughed that hard on meetings with other mayors and
We got a flood thrown in there too. They're kind of
That's
like.
true.
Yes.
Yes,
That's true.
Nothing stopped us from our appointed rounds. We're like the postal service.
That's true.
So thank you very much. I think that concludes the process. If you have any questions, of course, reach out to us. Other LPC members who were not able to attend today, we will reach out to them at tomorrow or the next day, fill them in on what happened, and then they will also receive their ballots and we'll get them electronically.
I just let Mr. Cragen know. He just reached out and asked, so he knows.
He wants to hand the papers down to you. You want to
Yeah.
give them the-
Yeah.
something?
Hand them in.
Does the website stay live?
And the website.
Yeah, I had people watching it and they didn't say anything. so-
Yeah, so the website will be maintained. We maintain it for now, but then that will be transferred over to the town and village, and they have requested an
I think
interest.
that's it, but
They
that's all,
have an
all
interest
the
in
LPC
keeping
members
it
in.
alive. Yep.
Check.
Yeah.
Can I ask the video question,
Oh, yeah.
or should I not talk to you privately?
You go ahead. Do you want to-
Okay.
Are we done with the meeting?
So-
Oh, you're asking a question for,
We have one question.
We're
So
still
now,
going, right?
now that we got the voting done, our portion is finished,
Yes.
are we allowed to release the video
Yes.
Oh.
that we used for our application?
Oh, well,
When did, yeah, we've been.
And what is preventing us? We can get back to you on that.
That is such a politician
So I was
answer.
gonna ask
You
you
running for office?
privately, but I,
That's what I know right now. Yeah.
what's prohibiting us from distributing it? What would be the,
In general, anything involved with this process
Yeah.
is confidential until released to the public. So it's possible now that the process is done,
yeah,
that's been released.
I'll have to see, yeah, I just don't know.
All right, thanks.
Is
Yeah,
that like the
appreciate it.
second floor answer, or is that like a regional, like, you know, like?
That's
the-
me.
Okay. No, I'm saying like who decides that? Is
Like,
that
who's
like the
decision
governor's
maker?
office, or is that like the, I'm just saying like who makes that decision as far as
Yeah,
the?
that's a good question, I'll find out.
So
The
you know who
founding
the
of
bride
your
judge?
forward and then just
I'm sure Josh.
ran
We
it
filmed
from
it so
this.
long ago, I had hair back
No,
then. I had a little.
I have one last announcement,
Yeah.
sorry, just for everybody in the public, if you have not signed in, we have a sign-in sheet over on that little table by the door, if you could just sign in on your way out, if you didn't on the way in. And with that, you're all excused.
All right.